having been in this game a long time, you can overdo the injector, and you can overdo the turbo, and have a completely undrivable truck. Well, I want to be able to pull a 20,000 pound trail, with a skid steer. Then we can do this, and it'll make this amount of power, and this is going to keep your EGTs. Oh no, but I want like 600 horsepower. That's not what you're trying to do here. Pick something to do with truck and go in that direction.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Minnoxide podcast. I'm your host, Harris, aka Minnoxide, man of many automotive aspirations, and I'm here with my Ford-loving co-host, Dan.
Yep, finally not in enemy territory here. So
yesterday it was a GTI. The day before that was all Chevy stuff. I mean, we're finally.
Yep.
Yeah, if you had a whoop like me, your anxiety levels would be way lower.
It's way lower right now, yes.
And today we are continuing our Georgia trip, and we are here at Power Hungry Performance, which. What city is this again?
Winder.
I was going to say Wilmer for some reason. That's Minnesota. But
anyway. A little town nobody's ever heard of.
Yeah.
Man, say what you want. That barbecue was good.
Yes, it was.
That barbecue was real good.
Yeah, Smoke and Pull Boys, the barbecue of stars. So
yeah, okay. I know we're just not gonna kick it off with that, but you said they were filming a little bit of Tulsa King here too, right?
They filmed Tulsa King here. They filmed a Stephen King movie here, The Outsider. And a bunch of other little projects.
Okay.
Every once in a while, you'll go down the street and it's closed for filming.
Yeah. It's just, I wonder why they picked this city. That's just so interesting.
Very low key, I guess. And
yeah.
And there's a lot of historical buildings in the area. So I mean, it's a good backdrop for a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, we're here with Bill, and I'm so sorry I blanked on your last name already. But
Bill Cohron.
So go ahead, tell us a little bit about the origins of Power Hungry Performance, what it is that you do, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Well, so. A little bit of background about me. I've been in the automotive industry in some form or other for over 40 years. I've spent a lot of years as a mechanic, almost 15 years as a mechanic, and then did some welding, fabrication stuff on that. In 1997, I went to work for Superchips. I was tired of wrenching. My back hurt, my knees hurt. Tired of busting knuckles. But it was a very good fit for me because I was very good at computers and very good at automotive performance. I understand the dynamics of gas engines and how to make them run well. They hired me doing Mustangs, F-150s, some of the more exotic stuff, the Cougars and Contours, and the occasional Mark 8, but it was all 5.0 stuff, and the 4.6 stuff was starting to come online, and it was a lot of fun doing that. And then we started doing the Power Strokes. And so we got a couple of OBS trucks in on the dyno and started writing tunes for that, and immediately just gravitated to that because you make 15 horsepower on a gas engine. You can feel it, but it's not impressive. You put a supercharger on it, yeah, there's a difference. You put 100 horsepower in a diesel truck, you feel it, you know it, it moves. It's a big difference. And so as soon as I started tuning diesels, I almost always gave up on the gas stuff at that point. And I did that for them for several years. Got to a point where I was really looking to a little bit of change of pace. Everything as it goes on, you start with a company and it's a fun place to work, and then you start getting a little more corporate. And it kind of takes the fun out of it. So I was looking for something different. So I ended up starting my own company in 2000, doing custom tuning for the Power Strokes. And I was the first person doing any custom tuning for it. There was nobody out there.
How did advertising look like back then, by the way?
It was all forums.
Okay.
Forums were starting to get really popular. FordTrucks.org and PowerStroke.org and all those big forums that were real popular back in the day. And there's still a few of them left. But it was, you pay them $300 a year and you get to chat away on the forums and pimp your stuff. And met a lot of really great people on there. Made a lot of good contacts that really helped move my business forward. People understood that I knew what I was talking about when I was talking about tuning, particularly on the Power Strokes. I understood how the shifting worked, the transmission, how to get the power to the ground, how to make the power. Modified injectors, how do you tune for those? And
where did that credibility come from? Like, why did people trust you?
It took a couple of key people in like the sled pull industry that I started doing tuning for. They had nobody that could do any tuning for them, they eventually came across me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it was really just me pounding through the forums, having conversations with people, and people started to realize I knew what I was talking about. John Anderson from Little Power Shop up in Pennsylvania was literally my first customer. I had been going to a couple of dyno events, trying to get people to let me tune their vehicles, and it was hard starting out because everyone was unsure of what this was.
Right.
And I tuned his truck on the dyno. He'd been having a problem where it was like, well, I have the fuel tables set, but I can't get the thing to make any power. You hit the gas and it takes forever to spool. And I'm like, well, your low boost fuel table is stock. He's like, what's that? So we go and we change it, and immediately now he's got launch. He's like, wow. And so he started pushing us and pushing people to us, all the people that he knew with sled pulls and drag racing and stuff like that. Did a couple more dyno events over the years, and it's always in the Northeast, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and just started building a reputation for tuning. That reputation eventually led to a relationship with Diesel Dynamics in Vegas, which is where Edge Products got their start, was actually reverse engineering Diesel Dynamics stuff. And through my relationship with them, I ended up actually getting hired at Edge in 2004. Was their Ford calibration engineer, their Ford product engineer for almost 4 years.
Okay.
And that really changed the game for me because there was a lot of things that I learned working with Edge. We started getting into, we got out of the chip market and got more into the flash programming market. So vehicle communications became a much bigger thing for me. We started doing the 6.0s, we started flashing the F-150s, and the 04 and later F-150s were a lot of fun. Their engine management systems were different. And so you could pick up 25, 30 horsepower on an F-150 with a good high octane tune. So I still like doing the gas stuff. I got back into doing the gas stuff, and that was a really fun project to do. But I learned a lot working with Edge. Just didn't care for the climate. Utah's. I'm from Florida. I like humidity. I like green trees. Yeah. There's not a lot of that in Utah. No. they have 2 seasons, white and brown, and that's about it. So.
Now, this is just to put in perspective for people. This is still around 2000, 2001.
So 2004 was when I started with Edge, and then I left in 2007.
Yeah. So I mean, once ODB2 came out in 1996, that all of this stuff is kind of still becoming new.
There's still a lot of market there. There's still a lot. So on the Power Strokes, you're looking at 94 to 2003, and that's the chip market for the Power Strokes. 2003 they split and they went to the 6.0s, and then we got into reflash. So the technology changed, how we changed the tuning changed. The tuning itself really didn't change. It's all still the same fuel tables, timing tables, and stuff like that. But how you get it into the computer was very different, and everyone was learning it at the same time. We were all the different companies out there, Bully Dog and whoever else was out there. Was all learning how to reflash these things. So it was a very competitive market back then. And then this, all the way up into 2007, this Explorers came out, and then it all just continued. So 2007, I moved to Georgia. Just like I said, I didn't like the climate in Utah.
What brought you to Georgia again?
I was very familiar with the area. When I started my company, I was actually living in North Carolina in 2000 to 2004. Okay. And through a customer at a shop I worked at that I was doing part-time stuff at, ended up getting hooked up with Panos, which is here in Brazelton, which is 10, 15 miles away. And we started doing custom tuning for some of their project cars. So they would get a car, and the customer would want a built engine, and so they would get an engine from Sean Highland out of Canada, and so take a 4.6 and turn it into a 5.2 and put a big fat supercharger on it, a Whipple or some other Roots supercharger on it, and then I'd come out and do the tuning for them. And so I knew the area, very familiar, and already had contacts out here. And so when I looked at leaving Edge and wanting to come back east, I didn't want to be in Florida anymore, and I really didn't care for North Carolina. So Georgia was a very comfortable fit, and I absolutely love it here. It's a great climate. And it's, for all intents and purposes, it's a really big Ford market here too. There's a lot of Ford trucks around. There's a lot of Chevy guys too, but I think, like rural Georgia, there's a lot more Ford guys.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's still people everywhere that have not quite all right in the head. That's fine.
We just try to watch out for those.
Yeah.
And bless their hearts.
That's one of the things that me and Dan kind of noticed. We travel the country, we talk to a lot of shops, and even if they're a GM shop, they always, for some reason, have a Ford truck.
There's always one floating around somewhere.
Yeah, their race team is being towed by a Power Stroke for sure.
Yeah.
This is and I've seen that. I've seen a lot of.
They need something reliable, right?
Yeah. Well, this is true, and the 7.3 is about as reliable as you're going to get. So, which is why I still love tuning them and working on them. They've just always been a favorite for me.
Well, not to take you too far from your story, but how is it, like, for example, the 7.3 has been out for a long time at this point. It's older than me at this point. How is it that you managed to keep a business, 20 years later for something that's not in production today, for example?
That's a really good question, and that's always been a concern of ours because, like, I remember when I was working for Edge, and they didn't want to get into the chip market because, there's no market for that. In 2004, they considered the 7.3 to be, old technology and an archaic platform. Meanwhile, they sold the heck out of Evolutions. The little Game Boy boxes, they sold thousands and thousands of those. So obviously the market was still there. When I started in 2007, the TS Performance 6-position chip, that was the standard for the industry. That's what everybody was running. A few people were running like Motes chips and stuff like that. But they all kind of suffered the same shortcomings, which was they weren't easy to program. The TS, you had to have a burner. And so for the average person, you buy a chip and you want to change the tunes on it, or you're doing custom tuning or whatever, it constantly meant shipping it back to somebody to get reflashed. And after a couple of years of dealing with that, especially dealing with customers, and I'd have to have their chips sent back and forth, and it gets to be tedious. We started designing a better way to do it. And Motes kind of did this. They didn't... At first, they didn't have one that had USB on it, but they had a very inexpensive programmer that they could send with the chip. Well, we decided to build something, and I used the technology that I'd gotten from Edge, what I learned about USB communication and stuff like that, and we just put a USB right on the chip. And so now you can plug it in, and we have the software and a library of calibrations that are on our server that you can download onto your chip. So it made access a lot easier, but we also kept things very open source. We kept the tuning as open source as possible so that anybody, if you wanted to, could tune your own chip.
Whether you are new to working on cars or a seasoned shop owner at the top of their game, the High Performance Academy is where all car enthusiasts can go to expand their skill sets. If you want to learn how to build an engine, tune your car, improve your wiring or suspension setups, the HP Academy has the perfect step-by-step course for you. As a friend of the show, they've provided listeners with a special 55% off discount code that you can use risk-free on any course of your choosing. Details are in the description of the show below, or go to the partners page at Minnoxide.com. Go check it out. Let's get back to the show.
We made the software accessible, kind of like SCT does. They have their tuning software, and you can write tunes for your programmer. We kind of did the same thing, but for the chip. And that has actually worked out very well for us because we've gotten to a point in our business where it actually allowed us to back away from the tuning. We provide the standard library, and we do an extended library with like common injector files and stuff like that. But it allows dozens, if not hundreds of people across the country to write tunes and put them on the chip with unrestricted. And so we've gotten some relationships with some really good tuners out of that. Andrew Arthur up in Washington, Brian Jellish on the East Coast, and Dan Kropanek and Corey at CNC Fab. We got a lot of great tuners out there. And that, when we released the chip in 2012, it immediately took over the market.
Mhm.
So, but the concern was, and the thing that we heard from everybody is like, why are you building a chip for a truck that hasn't been made in 10 years?
Yeah.
Because there's still a market for it.
Not the 6.7 had just come out at that point.
Well, yeah,
right?
the 6.7,
So,
it's been out for a year.
Yep.
And everyone was still building 6.4s and doing whatnot with that. 6.0s had a bad taste in everybody's mouth because it had a problem. But even then, 6.0s were still starting to kind of build back up. And so we were doing 6.0s, and I still like tuning those. We just come out with the FICM tuning for those, which nobody else was really doing. There was one other company that was doing some FICM tuning, but never got the tunes to the level that we were able to. So we've always looked at the chip market, and like even today, we're still like, well, this has got to end at some point. And it's always funny how there's this weird resurgence, because when people had problems with the 6.0s and started having like cracked pistons in the 6.4s and stuff like that, people were going back to the 7.3s. And there were people that bought the 6.7s, and they're great trucks, but then they started having the fuel pump issues with water, and then you just get tired of the DPF and DEF and everything else, and then they're like, forget it, I'm going back to a 7.3. So guys my age in their 40s and 50s, they had a 6.7, and they're like, man, I was just happier with my 7.3, and I'll go back and find another 7.3. That lasted for about 10 years, and now we're in another changeover. But this time, it's guys that are my age or a little older, dads and granddads who have this older truck, and now they're taking those trucks and they're giving them to their kids. And so now the Gen Zs or millennials, whatever you want to call them, they're getting these trucks, and they're getting them for next to nothing, if not just completely free. And now they take all their money and put it into it. And the first thing they do is they put injectors in it and a chip and big tires. And the market has started over again with a completely different demographic.
There's just something about that generation, man. And the resurgence thing is so cool. Like, for example, you have the R8, right?
Right.
My generation, which is going to be getting into their 30s here soon, the Iron Man R8. Right.
Yeah.
When the R8
the Gen 1 R8.
Yeah. Gen 1 R8 is now, that's catching, like
and they're affordable now.
Yeah.
Affordable being a relative term.
Well, attainable.
Attainable.
Right. But in the next few years, I guarantee you those will start. I mean, that's what classic cars are. After 20 years, they just shoot back up because that generation wants it.
Right. Well, it's like I was telling you earlier, is that, we ran into a lady last night, and her dad had, her granddad had bought a Power Stroke new in 97. And he drives it to pull a camper every once in a while. And at this point now, almost 30 years later, he's got 14,000 miles on this truck. And he's been offered 60 grand for this truck that he probably paid 23, 24, 25 grand for in 97. And he's like, yeah, but I don't have, I don't need the money. I really don't care to sell it. And she's like, well, what are you going to do with it when you don't want it anymore? So I'm just going to give it to one of you guys. give it to one of the grandkids and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of the mentality. People like, my generation or a little bit older, we like holding on to things and handing it down to people. I don't sell anything. I buy stuff. If I have to get rid of it, it's like pulling teeth, man. I don't get rid of it.
I can think of a guy like that.
I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've sold something? Right?
I sold one of my first Fox bodies last year. Maybe it was the year before.
Yeah, he's been thinking about that for a decade, though.
Yeah. It took
so I had a 78 Bronco that I picked up from one of our local dealers that I think I picked it up for like $500.
Yep.
And
here we go.
And I was like, oh, I really want to build it, because Angela really wanted a Bronco. And it just got, by the time we started looking at all the titles for vehicles we had, I got 2 Fairlanes, I got a Bronco, got my 64 F600, I got this, I got that motorcycle. It was just getting completely unmanageable. And so we just started part stuff out. And then I had 3 fire trucks, and that's
just started playing title roulette. Like, all right, which one's going today?
Yeah, I have a file at home that's probably this thick, full of titles. So yeah.
Actually, we had 2 of the fire trucks out here outside the shop. because we had done an event for a FEMA training session over at the airport across the street. And so we allowed them to use our fire trucks for part of the training. And so they were sitting out here and a guy drove by and it's like, you want to sell the fire trucks? And my wife's like, yes, yes, please. Yes, please. And so 2 fire trucks, 10 grand gone.
Wow.
And that was what I used for the down payment on the upgrade. so I got something out of it.
When you get car money in, it has to go back into cars.
It does. Yeah, you have to give back to the.
Yeah, my
to the
wife's
universe.
always like, "Well, now what are we gonna do?" I was like, "Obviously, it's gonna go back into whatever we're doing here."
Right.
So
Circle of life.
Yeah.
It is. It's a very vicious circle sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's the fact that there's this whole new generation coming up and getting into these trucks and the enthusiasm that they have for it, it's absolutely amazing. The No BS OBS show we did last year in August, and we're going to again this year, had just an incredible number of beautiful trucks. I mean, there's some beaters out there too, but but they're taking these trucks, and it's not costing a lot to fix them up. It doesn't cost a lot to put a set of wheels on it and maybe buff out the paint. You know, and there's a lot of places that you can get door handles and spare parts for and trim and make it a clean truck. And it just doesn't cost a lot of money. So
how's the repop market for parts? Are parts pretty accessible or?
So
for the OBS stuff, yes, anything. Yeah, you could. There's so like I don't know if you know LMR for Mustangs and stuff. So they do OBS stuff now too. That you can get basically anything.
Complete Performance has tons of bolt-on stuff, door handles, interior trim, exterior trim. They we deal a lot with them, and I mean there's a lot of stuff that's accessible for those vehicles. And there's still, a pretty good salvage market, junkyard market for stuff like that. Although a lot of that stuff's more and more getting crushed, so it's getting a little tighter to find some good body parts and stuff like that. But there's also, like I said, there's a lot of places that still do good new sheet metal.
Well, you're talking too about an engine. So if you ask any Ford enthusiast, like, what's the GOAT? What is the probably greatest engine? And even though it's made by International, but anybody's going to tell you in the Ford family that 7.3 is one of their greatest things they've ever partnered with, whatever deals they ever did.
And the only thing that killed the 7.3 was emissions.
Yep.
The two. I really think that if they had just kept the 7.3 and did a 4-valve head set for it, and the EGR, which is what the EPA wanted, they could have kept the 7.3 around for several more years, and I think it would have been a much more reliable way to go. But that's not the direction they went. Navistar completely redesigned the engine and came out with the 6.0, and it wasn't a bad engine. They just had a lot of bugs they had to work out the first couple.
If they could have just popped a few more head bolts in there, that would have been really nice.
5 or maybe 6 bolts ahead would have been great. But let's save on head bolts.
Yeah, that's how I got started in diesel game. My buddy, it's like, you got to get a diesel truck. My dad and I are pulling trailers for work. We're putting on many, many miles a week. And he's like, you got to do it. So I got a 6.0 truck. I found a nice clean one. And I drove it. And I'm like, dude, this thing just seems like my other truck was faster. Like, that's cool that I can tow, but like, this thing seems like a dog. And he goes, just wait. So then I get some tunes. Now my whole world has changed.
Right.
Because like you said, it is crazy what you drive a stock 6.0 truck and then just give it a mild tune. It's a whole nother truck.
It's a different animal.
So I got bit by that bug, and I never messed with the 6.4, but I did about everything else in between. I've had 6.0, and now I've got a 7.3 and a 6.7, and
we've done a lot of 6.4s, and one of the things I really do I get a lot of flack from people is because we tend to be more conservative, because I don't want to be the guy that blew somebody's engine up.
Yep.
There's guys out, I can get a 650, 700 horsepower tune for this. And I'm like, well, then go for it, man, because that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that for you. I want to know that you can make good power and you can still pull with it, or that it's going to last you, 150, 200,000 miles before you really have to do anything with it. I'm not going to crack your pistons or blow head gaskets. And there are other tuners that are more conservative than I am. Like Banks is known for their conservative tuning. They make power, but they're still very conservative. And we're kind of in between the really high horsepower guys and Banks. We have a good market, and we have a lot of respect in the community for our tuning. So it's a good place to be. But the EPA being what it is, the difficulties that we have with that, we've backed off the 6.4 stuff, and it was probably at a good time. It was about time we really started getting into the Hydra stuff, and we just could see, EPA started to go after a lot of people. It was about the same time that Edge got hit, Super Chips, SCT, all the big companies. That EPA was going after them because they were the low hanging fruit and they had the deepest pockets. And I'm like, well, I think it's probably best if we back off some of this stuff. And not that we were doing anything that was not emissions legal, but I just don't even want to be associated with it, because if they come after me, it's like, look, we don't even touch the trucks. I don't do anything for them.
Right.
So it gives us a good excuse to just not be hassled by it. And so far, I've been very fortunate with that.
Well, I listened to your, it was like a Q&A you did 3 years ago or something like that. And one of the things you mentioned on it was you don't exactly have a clientele that's, rolling coal at every stoplight either.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
We don't. And in fact, we got a lot of irritation from more than a few customers, because when we first started coming out with the hydro chip and everyone was asking for this, they wanted like a smoke show tune or rolling coal tune, and we did for a couple of minutes, and then I was like, this is not the image that we want. So we took all the smoke tunes off, the low vital tunes off, because I was like, neither of them are going to be good for your engine. I mean, you're sooting up your oil, you're sooting up the environment, you're pissing people off. I just don't want that reputation.
Yeah.
So we got rid of all those tunes. We just want to build good power, reliable power, and still make 120, 140 horsepower, but we can do it cleanly.
Yeah. I have that argument all the time with people when they talk about the smoke, and I was like, well, if your truck is actually tuned correctly, it doesn't do that.
Smoke.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing with that one is honestly, it's like the low boost fuel tables run the Dodge. It's the aneroid valve. You put the cam plate in there for the Dodges, and it'll make a lot of smoke as soon as you hit the throttle. It's still not going anywhere.
Yeah. I can get mine to do it if I come off the gas and right back on it, and that's about. And then you get a little puff, and then that's about it.
And that's only because the turbo's still creating boost in there, and so it immediately goes to the full part of the table, not the low fuel part. So. I mean, there's ways around everything, but again, we've built a reputation trying to be clean, reliable, quality products, and that's just the way I like to do things.
Who was someone that was a mentor to you over the years, or I guess in various stages even of your career?
So, that's an interesting question. I don't know. My first and my best mentor was actually my computer sciences teacher when I was in junior high school. It honestly, if it had not been for him, I probably would have dropped out of school in middle school. But I loved computers so much that, and he was such an accommodating teacher. He would teach middle school. He would stay after school 3 or 4 hours, and then he would teach at college at night at 6. So I had access to the computer lab, along with probably maybe a half a dozen to a dozen other kids who were really good at computers and weren't just there to play games. And he helped keep my interest going in computers and that ultimately got me to stay in school. Because I was ADHD. I could not study. I couldn't pass my classes. I was really struggling with it. It was very, very frustrating.
How did you do on the computer side of things, though?
I love it. I can sit there and focus on that stuff for hours, and I still do. I some of my most peaceful brain moments are when I'm sitting in front of a computer at 2 a.m. writing code for something. I get stuck on an idea, and I just pound through it until I'm done. And I've had days where I've been on the computer 48 hours. Get up, get something to drink, go to the bathroom, come back, and just keep, because you get in that zone. And ADHD brains are a very different thing. It's a struggle sometimes to function.
Well, that's one of the things that I like. I keep seeing more and more, especially when I listen to podcasts. Right? It's like, it's not a matter of like, oh, this person cannot learn. They're just not learning the right thing.
Exactly, they're not learning the right way.
You found the passion, and it's like, oh, you can just zone like 48 hours, right, and just zone in on it. So that makes sense.
So I had computers, and then the other thing that I always loved dirt bikes and motorcycles. Okay, and so. About the time I was 12, I started getting into like motorcycles and lawnmowers, small engine stuff. I found out this is a lot of fun. I love taking things apart, and I can put these back together, and they work. It's amazing. And so I got into, actually, like by the time I was 13, I was like fixing lawnmowers for people in the neighborhood. I was fixing dirt bikes for some of my friends. finally had, made enough money. I bought my own dirt bike and got into riding dirt bikes, and then got into cars. And it wouldn't be anything to, come home from school on a Friday night and rip the heads off my car and, just to see what's going on, change the head gaskets, put the heads back on, or have a friend that's, has got a machine shop and take the heads over there, and we're going to port them a little bit, or we're going to do this, or it was not an unusual thing. Mm-hmm. Change an intake manifold in an afternoon, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Small block Chevys were easy.
Yeah.
So, and that was when I was going through my Chevy phase. I had I had that issue too.
Yeah.
So, my first car was a Chevelle, and a 72 Chevelle, and it was a great car, and I missed that car terribly. Mm. But it was, being able to focus on the computer end of things and the mechanical end of things and performance and stuff like that. I've really enjoyed that. But yeah, so my biggest mentor was my computer teacher. Now I have a lot of friends in the industry that I've learned from. I wouldn't go so far as to say they're mentors, but we have very good relationships. And probably one of the best examples is Dennis Perry from TS Performance. Mm-hmm. We've been friends for 20 years, and he still calls me up. Hey, what you doing? When you coming by? When's the next time you're getting up to Kentucky? So we'll be up this way. Probably in a couple of months, and we'll come by and have dinner and stuff. But and I get a lot of people who are like, you don't. Dennis isn't mad at you that you took his chip business away. And I was like, well, his chip and my chip are kind of two different markets. He's a less expensive product, and it fits a need. Mm-hmm. People who are a little more budget conscious. That's great. At the end of the day, it still does the same thing. It takes a tune and it puts it in the truck, and it's adjustable. It's got fewer positions, and if you need to change it, you have to send it off. But other than that, it's perfectly functional. We have a lot of customers that enjoy that, but no, we've never had any animosity about it, and he still sends me customers. I still send him customers, but there's been a lot of relationships that I've had in the industry that I really appreciate. Mm-hmm. Friends that I still work with from Edge, some of the people even back from the Super Chips days that I still stay in touch with. And, it's been a great industry, and I think most people find that the automotive industry is like that. You make those lifelong relationships, and you learn from each other.
But he primarily just does chip stuff then?
TS?
Yeah.
They do, actually, so they're agricultural stuff, so they do a lot of stuff like John Deere and stuff. So they have their MP8 box, which plugs into the system. I think their bigger market right now is their agricultural, and their on-highway, the Class 8 trucks.
Okay.
They still sell a lot of TS chips, I'm sure, but I don't think that's their big driver anymore.
Okay. Because you kind of found a way to bring the old and new together, which is crazy. I should have showed you the website before we started, because it was really cool. And I bought your chip, and I get it, and then it's, open it up, it's in instructions, and you go onto the website, then you got a drop-down box. You get to pick. Yeah. What you want. What are you feeling like?
You want a 25 toe in position 2. Yeah. You just drop it in there. 80 horsepower daily driver.
I had to write myself a cheat sheet, and it's the little sunglasses holder. That's where my cheat sheet sits, and then I can pull it down and I go, because you can put up to 10.
I can't tell you how many trucks have come in there and you plop it down and they have a little list up there. They'll print it out on a little sticker and stick it right on the mirror cover.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's hard to remember, because I think it's 10 you can have on there.
We can have 15 customizable positions, and then there's the stock position, the factory stock, and then there's the no start position. So. And the no start's nice, for people who live in high crime areas. Mm-hmm. You can put it in that position, and when you pull the switch off, they can't get out of it, and the truck won't start. And we've had quite a few people who called us and told us that it's actually saved their truck. They've had their truck broken into,
really,
and the lock cylinder snapped off, but they couldn't get the truck to start.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's anything that we can do to help the market. If there's something that we can fit into, that we can help with, we try to do it.
Yeah. I will say, I tried your Whisper tune on my wife's Excursion, and we still kind of have to. Sometimes we have to shut the truck off when we're in a drive-through, because that's.
It depends. It depends on the sensitivity.
Oh yeah.
And some of it also depends on temperature, because the Whisper tune really only works well when the engine is fully warm and the air temps are warm. If it's colder climate, the the calibration is still going to advance the timing a little bit, and so we can only pull so much timing out without starting to create clouds of white smoke. And so I mean, we've run into that. I mean,
it was more. I think when I tested, it was in the winter time.
It was at PRI.
No, I did try it once at PRI. Yeah.
So if the ambient air temperature is cold, it's still going to add timing in there. So the timing that we're backing out.
Well, how's 4 degrees? Is that cold enough?
That's.
Right.
And that's why I left Utah. Because I don't like single digit degrees. That doesn't work. Triple digits don't work for me either.
Negative isn't great either.
No.
What do we get to this year? Negative 30 at one point. Negative 20.
I will say that's the one thing about the 7.3. Although I can usually get her to start, but she hates it when it's if I don't plug it in for sure, I'm really hosed.
It's it's just the nature of the beast of owning a diesel, but I got with the international stuff that we do. One of the hardest ones that we struggle with is the DT466 does not use glow plugs, nor does it use an air heater. So if you're below 20 degrees and you don't plug it in, good luck.
Oh, really?
I don't know why they didn't do that. Why they didn't put any kind of a heating system for the air in that. But they really struggle starting cold. Now the truck that I have that we use to pull our camper is a DT570, and it's got glow plugs in it, but I think it's basically the same engine,
Right.
So, but I don't ever have any problem with that thing starting cold. So.
Well, we know engineers always make the best decisions sometimes.
Right. I just never could get my head around why they did that. So it's one of the quirks of it, and the people who own them already understand it, and they already know they have to put it in at night, and that's just what it is. And you just don't take it and park it in a parking lot for 2 days and expect it to go out and fire right off. So
right.
But the engineering side of things can create some challenges for us that we have to try to overcome.
We've talked to people in Detroit, man, and it's like this guy in this department just created the coolest thing ever, and it's gonna work great. And then the guy in the next department's like, well, we have these restrictions, so your stuff's not gonna work as well. And it just goes down the line from everybody we've talked to. It's just,
it does.
It's just a joke sometimes.
It was one of the hard things that I struggle with is because there's all these fun projects that you want to do, cool things you want to make. It's like somebody's like, I wish somebody made this for this, and as a small company, we have the ability to try to address some of those things. One of the hardest things that I had was working for Edge. When I first started there, it was a very family, enthusiast-driven company. Everybody there owned a truck, and everybody, you had your Dodge guys and your Duramax guys and stuff. And I was the Ford guy. Got a lot of grief for that, but it's okay. It's okay. We should. But it was a very fun place to work because everything was enthusiast driven.
What kind of world is it when your New Balance has got more miles than your car? It's a world where you thought a stock ECU from over a decade ago would cut it, not knowing there's a way to get better traction control, launch control, and most importantly, engine protection features. It's a world where you didn't know you could save 5% on a Haltech plug-and-play kit for your C6 Corvette using code Minnoxide. How's that jingle go again? Go to tunedbyshawn.com to get your Haltech goodies and see what's right for your build. Whether it be a C6 Corvette, a Supra, or any other project you've been cooking, there's a solution for you. Link in the description. Let's get back to the show.
And then a little bit after I started working there, MSD bought them, MSD Ignition. And it became corporate. And now it's like, oh, you got a great idea? Well, let's run it past a board of people to see if that's something that we want to do. And it's my understanding, like today, it's still that way. Now that they're owned by Holley. But you got a great project idea. Well, we need to see if it's something we want to get into. And they kind of pick and choose their battles. And it frustrates me because it makes you almost not want to come up with any ideas for anything.
It kills innovation.
Because they're just going to shut it down anyway. And the one that I experienced firsthand with that was we had found a way to use their juice module and have it talk over CAN to our Evo and run output drivers to nitrous solenoids and control it with the Evo. And it was a great idea. We already had the hardware done. All it took was a change in the firmware, some output, and we just tapped into the CAN communications lines on the ECM, and we could control. We could do purge. You put a little button, and it was fantastic. We made one prototype, and it got on one of the truck shows. The one with Stacy David. Back in 2006.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, but anyway, and so they, here we got this F-150, a big nitrous bottle in the back, and they go and show all this, and people are calling like, when can I get this?
Mm-hmm.
And they never made it. And I'm like, people are asking for it. You've already got all the hardware. Just make it.
Yeah.
And they walked away from it. And I was absolutely heartbroken that they did that. I was like, this is a fantastic idea. But and it made it kind of hard for me, because then it's like, well, you know what, I'm just gonna do what you tell me to do, and it took all the fun out of it for me. So then I just spent like my days on the dyno, and I would dyno test tunes and write calibrations for different Ford trucks, and we were getting into we were finishing out the 6.0 stuff, and I still did some 6.4 stuff for them even after I left, but it just wasn't the same. It wasn't fun anymore. And so when I came to Georgia and we started this company, our biggest focus was to always try to keep it as family oriented and as fun as possible, but also still listen to everyone's ideas. And even if it's not in the 7.3 market, even if it's not in the diesel market, what can we create that would fill a void? So, and that's where we're at now. We're really trying to get back into the innovation part of things.
So what, if you take that mentality, for example, what's come as a result of that?
We've got 2 projects that we're working on, that we have going on right now. One of them is actually a new handheld. It's a wireless device that'll plug into the Navistars, so that we can flash and data log from a phone, iPad, whatever. So it'd be nice, because we've had a lot of people that would love to be able to like mount their iPad up on the dash or something and have a gauge display, monitor ICP and stuff like that. And we're working on that. We're about 2 years in development on that, with a very limited engineering team. And we're hoping to have some prototyping stuff done before the end of the year. I've got another project I'm working on, which is kind of going back to the programmer side of things for like the 6.0, 6.4, F-150, stuff like that. We're working on some hardware that's Bluetooth capable. Not that it's not already out there, but we're just looking for something that's going to specifically fit what we want to tackle. And then 2 of the other projects. One, I've always wanted to build a nitrous controller, just for the market that that we're in, but make it as flexible enough as possible that it'll work on anything. But completely tunable, 3D mapping. How you want your nitrous curves. Or when you want them to come on, and be able to even monitor the CAN data so that you can anticipate shifts and back the nitrous off for a shift and then come back in. Different things like that. And the other one's a turbo controller. To be able to take either the VGT 6.0 turbo and put it on anything, including a 7.3, or take the twin turbo pack off of 6.4 and put it on anything, and have a standalone controller that runs the VGT. There's a few people out there that have made some stuff for that. I personally have not been impressed with the hardware or the tuning capabilities of their software, and we're looking to be much more in depth with what we're offering. So, and that's a project that we're just starting on right now, is the turbo controller. So.
That turbo is one of the things that makes, in the 6.4, that compound turbo setup, that's one of the things that makes that that engine can make some major power, from what I understand. What are the shortcomings of that engine? Because I hear that something about with the way they have it put together in the inside. When I read on the forums, people say 150,000 miles, throw them away.
Yeah, the bottom ends on those, since they're basically a 6.0 at that point, I just don't think the bottom ends are strong enough to handle a lot of power for a long time. You take a 7.3 and you can build it and you can put 650 horsepower on it and it'll last 200,000 miles, unless you do something really stupid with it. And the 6.4 is just just don't handle it well. That and everyone revs the crap out of them because they're a shorter stroked engine than a 7.3, so they're running them 3,800 RPM, and then wonder why they fall apart. But the turbo setups on those are fantastic, and I've got a friend that actually put that twin turbo pack on a 7.3 and running a rudimentary turbo controller on it, and I'll tell you, man, it's impressive, for just a beat up old 7.3.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of opportunities. It's not just what can I make that'll solve one particular problem, but it's also like, what can we make that we can help other people with their products? And I think that's one of the things that often gets overlooked is there are a tremendous amount of people that still create products for the 7.3. It is a very well-loved platform, and there's blocks, heads, all kinds of internals, anything you can bolt onto it. There's somebody out there to make something for it because there's no factory support for it anymore. And so the aftermarket is all we have. And so we really strive to try to create relationships and build relationships and networking in the industry. 2 years ago, we started Summit 7.3 just to do that, to get all the 7.3 guys in one place in the same room talking to each other.
Oh, okay.
So we just had our second event in March, and it was phenomenal. And we've had some other stuff come out of that, but it's been great, to have everybody go back and look and say, what are we, where are you seeing the market go? Are you still seeing business? Or should we still be keep making this stuff? And yeah, you really should be. There's still a lot of market out for it, and I said, with the new generations coming in, there's just that much more interest, and we haven't seen it slow down yet.
Well, it's probably easier for you down here to see more of them around. Up where we're at, the trucks rot away before the engines quit. But for the 7.3, like 500,000 miles is like a walk in the park, right? What's the highest mileage one you think you've seen?
Oh, I've seen several over 1 million.
Really?
Yeah. And now, granted, these are well maintained. They might not have been driven the easiest, but they're maintained well. We have several customers with over 1 million miles on their trucks.
Wow.
And like I said, the northern rot is a huge problem.
What do you think? What does it take to get a truck to 1 million miles? Like when you say maintain, what does maintain mean? Regular
oil changes. I mean, there's going to be some replacement stuff that comes along.
Yeah.
Sure. The 300,000 miles. I mean, the H-pop is pretty well shot. You may go through a set of injectors, but for the most part, as long as you keep the oil changed on it and don't constantly push it to 3,600 RPM, they'll last forever. I mean, they were designed as 1 million mile engines when they put them in the international trucks.
True.
And the DT 466s are the same way. Now, the 466 has an advantage of being a wet sleeve, and you can change the cylinders in them and stuff like that. But the 7.3, when they put them in internationals and they make 175 or 195 horsepower, they don't ever break. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah. I will say that there is some maintenance, and again, we have the oil pans rot through up there, and every time I fix an oil leak, I find another one.
Yeah.
And the
dipsticks leak. And
I think I'm finally at my last one. My H-pop leaks slightly into the valley, and then it comes out the backside of the engine. So
down through the transmission.
It's fun. So I think it's I've replaced about everything else. The whole engine's been out, regasketed.
Now I found an interesting one on that. I had a customer several years back that we kept chasing an oil leak in the valley, and we changed the gasket on the H-pop and everything. And then, but the engine was so messy, I couldn't really tell anything. And I went out there and I gunked the whole engine out and pressure washed the whole thing. And then I let it sit for like 2 days to completely dry out, and I started it up. And it was actually the little plug in the head along the oil rail, because there's the high pressure oil line and then the 3 plugs. And it was the plug in the back, the O-ring had gone bad, and it was just trickling down. And I'm like, of all the things, So after we'd had his high pressure oil pump off twice, and just like, I don't know what's going on here, But you can be chasing oil leaks for a while. It's always a frustration, but outside of that, they're reliable. They don't really lose a lot of oil. So
Well, and then when they do, because I've also had I had the oil going into my fuel. I think I had an injector cup problem.
yeah, that's
then,
the other problem.
Yeah, so that I didn't know it was going anywhere, right? And I was like, my fuel level didn't seem like it was going down as fast as it was. And
all of a sudden, you're losing a lot of oil.
yeah, well, it just quit running, right?
Yeah.
So that's one other thing about them. When they get low enough on oil, they just shut off,
Right.
and then they don't really grenade themselves or anything. So
Yeah, fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. So I had that happen to me in my excursion.
Mhm.
It wasn't the injector cup, but I had actually the injector itself had suffered a failure, and it ended up pumping all the oil into the fuel rail in the injector
Mhm.
and filled my tank up with 15 quarts of oil and stopped on the side of the road. I pulled the dipstick out, it's bone dry.
Yeah.
I grabbed 2 gallons of oil, which is all I could get from walking up to the gas station, and I put it in there, and I could not get it to start because I couldn't get it to build oil pressure enough to run again.
Oh wow.
It wouldn't build. It would build like 110, 115 psi of oil pressure cranking, and I was thinking it ran fine until it didn't
Mhm.
because the engine was spinning fast enough to make pressure. But once it stopped, I couldn't get it started again. And towed it home and pulled out and I grabbed the top of the injector and went like that. I'm like, ooh, that's not right. send it out, get a new injector back, and ran fine
Yeah.
after that.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about injectors, because that's one. So we, again, in the performance, we've had like Nostrum Performance on, and they build injectors on the gas side, and we talk about not overdoing your injectors. It's like a lot of times when you build an engine, right, you'll overdo something expecting to turn it up. Is it in the diesel world? Is it the same thing? Do you not want to go too big until you're ready?
It is absolutely the same way in the diesel world.
Okay.
And having been in this game a long time, you can overdo the injector, and you can overdo the turbo, and have a completely undrivable truck.
Okay.
It'd be completely inappropriate for the application, and I'm not the only one that suffers with this. Many of our dealers and warehouses, they have to try to guide somebody into, what are you trying to do with the truck?
Mhm.
Well, I want to be able to pull a 20,000 pound trail, with a skid steer, on the back or whatever, backhoe. Okay, well, then we can do this, and it'll make this amount of power, and this is going to keep your EGTs reasonable. Oh no, but I want like 600 horsepower. That's not what you're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Pick something to do with truck and go in that direction. And again, for the most part, our customers tend to be more interested in the usability of the vehicle.
Mhm.
And so, usually we're recommending like stage 1s or stage 1.5s, 160, 100 ACC injectors, stock nozzles. It's going to give you the best torque curve, best fuel economy, and still great power with manageable EGTs. We do get some people that want to, where they kind of split, and they maybe not tow so heavy, but want to have a little more play truck. And then we look at like a stage 3 injector, small injector, small nozzle, again, to try to keep the atomization up as much as possible without getting a lot of smoke and getting a lot of heat. And then you have to pair it with the right turbo that's going to use what the injector has, and provide enough airflow without killing it, either being too tight of a exhaust housing,
Mhm.
that'll spool quick, but it's not going to be good for towing or getting the heat out of the exhaust, or getting one that's too loose and it just takes forever to spool. It gets really laggy. So that's why like we work with KC turbos, and we I don't even try to suggest turbos anymore when somebody's like, I'll suggest an injector for an application,
Mhm.
and then we send them over to KC, and then
Okay.
they will look at, from the turbo side of things, this is what you want to do, this is the turbo you want to run. And I know what I do, I'm good at what I do, he's good at what he does, and I always like to defer to the professionals.
Yeah, they make it really easy when you go out. My wife's truck got a KC turbo on it once hers went out.
Yeah.
I was gonna rebuild it, and I'm like, why? So I kissed Casey that I got one now that has
they got to drop in at the same price.
Yeah, and I was able to get rid of the pedestal and all that stuff. So it was, and and it sounds good now. It doesn't sound as good as my 6.0 truck did, but
well, the VGT is always going to have a good sound to
it's
it.
great. When it used to just sit, I could just get in a lawn chair and let my 6.0 run and just listen to that jet engine sound and just drink a case of beer and
Sound like an F-14.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, it's about to take off. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of what it is a little bit of a jet engine. So
yeah. I really loved that truck, except for after I bulletproofed it, the coolant started to go to that secret reservoir that nobody knows where it is in the 6.0 again.
Yeah.
And once that started to disappear, I got rid of the truck. I'm like, I'm not going through this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
unfortunately, that's kind of what happened. My 6.0 ran great, and I was running our Fickum tuning and stuff on it, and I had the weirdest turbo in the world. The truck was an 04.5. It was kind of a mid, right.
Yep, I had one of those. It had the better H-pop, but some of the other stuff.
But the turbo was really weird because for an 04, I forget what size the compressor wheel was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the compressor wheel for an 04, but it turned out to be smaller, which is what I believe the 05 and later is. And so I put the wheel on and never even looked at it when I put it in there. I put the turbo back on and I threw it on the dyno. I'm like, man, this is making great power. I was making like 480 horsepower. Just absolutely tickled with it. And then we had a dyno day at the shop, and one of our customers, Matt Wilbur, will remember this. We were dynoing his truck, and we had a guy that came out that was modifying turbos. Mm-hmm. And the turbo that he had brought with him, the oil passage was damaged, and so we couldn't use the turbo. So he's like, well, I'll take your turbo back with me, and I'll redo it, and I'll mail it to you. And he's like, well, that's great, but how am I going to get home? I'm like, well, just take the turbo off my truck. My truck's sitting outside. I don't care. I got my 7.3. I'll drive home. Mm-hmm. And so I take my turbo off the truck. We bolt it on his truck. He goes driving home. He's running down 85, calls me up, says, I don't know what is with this turbo, but I cannot keep the intercooler boots on. Keeps blowing the pipe off. And by the way, this thing runs awesome. And I'm like, I don't know, dude, man. It's just the turbo that was on my truck. I mean, it's a turbo. The only thing I did was put a wheel on it. And so he finally stopped at the grocery store, got some hairspray, and got it on there and got home. He lives 2 hours away. So he comes back out 2 months later. We got his other turbo and we swapped the turbo out. And then I got the turbo and I got it standing up on the end, and all of a sudden I look down in it and I'm like, man, I got a big gap between the wheel and the housing. And I was getting out and I'm measuring it, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's the wheel. I called Bob at Diesel Site. I'm like, the wheel you sent me is the wrong one for the turbo. I said, because it's this many millimeter, but my housing is this. And he's like, yeah, that's an 05 turbo. And I'm like, but it's on an 04. He's like, yeah, at the end of 05, they were kind of pulling parts from wherever they could get them. And so I ended up with this wheel that was smaller, considerably smaller. I had like 2 millimeters between the wheel and the housing, which usually they're right up on there.
Yeah.
And this thing just made the most incredible boost I'd ever seen out of a turbo. And then it got me thinking. I was like, well, maybe pushing the compressor wheel right to the edge of the housing is not the trick. So I've never had another turbo run that way since, and I think I still have the turbo sitting on the floor over here. But it was the weirdest thing, Yeah. But anyway, so you look at turbos. Getting the right turbo is going to make all the difference in the world.
Well, what I don't know if I finished this or not, but KC, their website makes it super easy. You go on there and they're like, what are your goals? Where you're at, stage 1, stage 2, and then you can start pairing injectors and stuff like that at the same time. And
that's and I've talked with Charlie a lot about that. We've had a lot of conversations about turbo kits and injector kits and stuff like that, and so we work with him a lot of that stuff. But it really does come down to it's people get an idea in their head what they want, and you have to guide them into what's feasible or what's reasonable. because if you let them do what they want, they're almost always going to end up being disappointed. And then it's your fault because your tuning didn't work, or your injectors didn't work, or your turbo didn't work. No, you picked the wrong turbo for the application, or you picked the wrong injectors for the application. Mm-hmm. And so it's just as important, one, that we be good at what we do, but that we also make every effort to educate the customer why this will or won't work.
Mm-hmm. You know what breaks my heart? No, it's not the 2% female demographic. It's the fact that 80% of you guys are not subscribed and following the show. So go ahead, hit subscribe or follow. And of course, if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so you are notified when we drop a new episode. Let's get back to the show.
And there's a lot of people that are just, they're just happy to sell you whatever. And if you don't like it, well, that's tough on you. I can't run that way. I like people to be happy with what they have.
So as somebody who tunes both gas and diesel, is there some major differences between the two, or are they two totally different worlds?
They're two completely different worlds.
Okay.
The biggest thing with gas over diesel is we're constrained by airflow, airflow ratio, or air fuel ratio. There's only so much you can do with a naturally aspirated engine. There's torque management stuff that we can do to change the feel on a gas, make the shifts a little more aggressive and change your shift points a little bit so they run out a little more. You feel like you got a little more pep and stuff like that. But ultimately, we're restricted by air fuel ratio, and timing can only go so far before you get detonation. I mean, knock sensor will back out any more than you put in, but you're really not getting anywhere further ahead. So there's a lot of more finesse in gas tuning than there is in diesel. Diesel, you throw fuel at it, let the turbo do what it wants, and it makes power. And there's no air fuel ratios to speak of. I mean, it's just going to do what it does.
Well, there won't really be much for ignition timing then either, because there's or how does that work?
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of things that weigh into the actual combustion event.
Okay.
So we do have to be critical about start of injection. And the pressure at which you're injecting, because that affects when the timing occurs. It also affects when the actual combustion process starts, because it doesn't always start right as you start injecting.
Okay.
There's some delay. If the pressure is lower and the engine RPMs are lower, the heat in the cylinder is not going to be quite as high, so there may be some associated delay with the combustion process. But we have to be very, very careful. Larger nozzles will change that. Higher injection pressures will change that. Changes in, if you machine the block or machine the heads. The heads not so much because almost all of them are flat. Whether you're running O-ring gaskets and that changes the compression ratio. There's a lot of things that relate from a mechanical aspect how the combustion event's going to occur. We do want to make sure that we're getting the combustion event early enough that we're making good horsepower and we're not getting a lot of EGTs. As the later you push the combustion event, the more EGTs. Bless you.
Thank you, sir.
The more EGTs you're going to see out the backside. But you start getting too crazy with the timing up front, then you'll get huge cylinder spikes. You're lifting head gaskets, breaking rods. There's timing is a critical thing on it, but it's just understanding where in the rotation of the crank that those events occur, and then tuning it to achieve the best combination.
But there's no spark timing, so it's a
not
little bit of a difference.
so much. I mean,
Okay,
there's a timing value for what
Right.
it's worth, and it's still measured in angles of crank, crank rotation. But depending on how fast the engine is spinning, that changes. So because the combustion event's still going to occur at a certain rate, and if you're at a slow spinning RPM and you run a static timing, you'll get a lot of your combustion process before top dead center. While at 3,200 RPM, most of it's going to happen after top dead center. Just changing the RPM changes that if you don't change the timing.
Okay.
So it's not much different than the gas in that respect, but yeah, there's a lot more to consider, because I can't just say it's going to start at this like a spark
Right.
plug, So it's a lot more tricky.
Okay. So another big thing that was, again, when I'm playing in the diesel stuff is monitors, right? So I have an EGT. one on my wife's truck, even though I could not tell you if what number is good or bad. I just have one in there. What are the most important things we should be monitoring and kind of where my 6.0 truck, I watch my coolant and engine oil deltas.
Yeah, watching your deltas. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
What would you, if you had to pick 3 or 5 of them, what are the most important things?
For most driving around town stuff, EGT is negligible because
Right.
usually, unless you're just a really heavy-footed driver, you're really not going to see EGTs high enough that are going to be a problem. If you're hauling heavy loads or you're hauling the mountains and stuff like that, EGTs are very critical, and that'll be hugely important, to prevent damaging the turbo or the exhaust valves. So for people who are driving more aggressively or pulling, EGT is always number one for me. On a 6.0, Delta is just because that's just the status, that's the health status of your oil cooler.
Mm-hmm.
But engine oil temp in general, we monitor. You don't want that getting too high. Most of the vehicles are automatics. We want to monitor tranny oil temp. Try to keep it 180 or less if possible. Even up to 200 is kind of okay, but start getting above that, and it's like every 20 degrees or something like that, you lose half the transmission fluid life. There's some formula for that. The higher you get, it wears the tranny fluid out really quickly. And boost. I always like to know what boost and back pressure. Your back pressure to boost ratio is going to really tell you a lot about the efficiency of your turbo system, whether you have too much back pressure. Because you can make 40 pounds of boost with 50 pounds of back pressure, or you can make 20 pounds of boost with 50 pounds of back pressure. And 20 pounds of boost at 50 pounds of back pressure is not always going to be the best. You're getting a lot of restriction on the back end. It's not driving the turbo as hard. The one thing I will say about boost is a lot of people misunderstand what boost is,
Mm-hmm.
and they go with the idea, well, my truck's not making 35 pounds of boost. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not running well. Does the truck run good? Oh man, it runs great. Then why are you concerned with the boost number? Boost is a measure of restriction. And you can create 35 pounds of boost, but it's not going anywhere because the air is being compressed into the engine. It's not going out.
Right.
And that's not efficient. If you're getting 25 pounds of boost, 28 pounds of boost, and your EGTs are 1100, and you're making great power, then that's where you want to be. Don't overthink it. Don't get stuck on a number, because that'll mess you up.
Well, yeah, we talk about that with dyno tuning too, right?
Yep.
It's you could do 3 pulls, they're all going to be different,
Mm-hmm.
and if some people, they don't hit that number, then they freak out. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, and dyno tuning, is it's always a fun thing because there's heat soak, and
Mm-hmm.
the room temps warm up, your air temps warm up, and the first run is going to be your best one, and the rest of them get worse after that. So, but I always look at the third run as a solid number. That's the number I go by, because at that point, that's going to be what you're going to see in your truck, because you're going to go out and you're going to hit it a couple of times,
Mm-hmm.
and then the engine's going to be hot. The air under the hood's going to be hot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be a more accurate number than, cheating and trying to get a good run on your first run before everything's really hot. So.
Oh, you're.
Yeah, no,
I got comfortable. I was like,
making sure
Dan's
you
on a
were-
roll
yeah,
here. Yeah. No, and this is one of the funny things in episodes. Sometimes one of us just goes on a 20 question run. I'm like, all right, Dan's got this from here. I'm just gonna story time, So, one question I had earlier was, so you mentioned, you have customers that just want basically a race truck. Let's just call it that, right? And then you have the guys that are, just working it hard. What's the ratio of the type of customers you have? Well, I guess what is your demographic?
It's changed over the years, because when we did a lot more custom tuning back in the mid 2010s,
Sure.
We were a lot more involved in a lot of the competition trucks, sled pull trucks, drag trucks, and stuff like that. The bulk of our demographic now is people that just want to pick up a little more power, a little better fuel economy.
That seems to be the case right now. Yeah.
And I think there's still competition people out there, and there's still a lot of sled pull guys, and we're still, in in an ancillary capacity, we still stay involved with like some of the sled pull guys, but
Okay.
Most of them get their tuning done from elsewhere.
Mhm.
They either do their own tuning or they've got the people that work in those markets that do tuning. So like for the drag stuff, a lot of people go to Brian Jellish because
Okay.
Brian Jellish has his drag truck. He's got one of the fastest 7.3s in the U.S., but not the world. And it's a beast. And so people who want to build a drag truck often call him for their tuning because he knows what it takes to make a 1,500 horsepower truck. And that's just not our market. I don't spend a lot of time in that realm.
Sure. How difficult is it would you advise for somebody to pick up tuning? Diesel in particular, that is.
What's that deal? Yeah. And here, this is what I tell people, like when they call up and they want to buy the software. That's like, I want to tune my 7.3. Do you understand the dynamics of how an engine works? Do you understand how compression works? How fuel expands? How timing affects that and stuff like that? No, not really. Then it's not for you. I mean, it's not to say that you can't learn it.
Sure.
But do you want to take your $20,000-$30,000 truck and
experiment with it?
Yeah. And if you're okay with that, that's fine because. Sure. When we provide the software, we provide the base calibrations, and the software is actually very flexible because it gives you the ability to load modified calibration and then load a stock calibration over it, and you can see the differences. You can see what's changed, what the timing maps look like, what the fuel maps look like, stuff like that. And if you want to take the time to learn how to do that, then that's great. And I would encourage anybody who is very interested in it to go ahead and do it. But I strongly suggest that you have some sort of fundamental knowledge of how an engine works.
Okay.
Because if you don't, then
it's going to be a long road.
It's going to be a long road, and it can be a very painful road.
Yeah.
Very expensive road.
Well, Dan always talks about like, all right, well, you blow up 2 engines and you let me know how you feel about tuning.
Yeah. It gets to be an expensive.
It does.
Yeah.
That's a great topic. What's the most expensive mistake you've made? Do you want to put it out there, that is, if there is one? Being a Ford guy?
No.
No, I'm kidding.
I really don't know.
Well, how about the flip side? What was the best investment you've ever made?
You mean aside from hiring Angela?
Yeah.
I will be honest. That was probably one of the best business decisions I ever made, was bringing her in.
And that, just for people listening, that's your wife,
That's
correct?
my wife. Yeah.
Gotcha.
She's the CEO of the company.
Yep.
She's the one that keeps the lights on and keeps my my wallet under control.
Yeah. Even though she bought us lunch today, so yeah.
Well,
Big heavy spender.
yeah. Well, in the grand scheme of things, when I looked at what I've got invested in the dyno here at $200,000 on this dyno.
Yeah.
And then other things that we've purchased, equipment that we've purchased. She kind of at least keeps me in control. Best investment. Has probably been, for my business, has probably been, the staff that we've hired. We've been very fortunate. We've been blessed with a great staff. And we hit bumps here and there.
Yeah.
And from a professional standpoint, probably the best investment of my time was the time that I spent at Edge, because I learned a tremendous amount of stuff there. That what I've learned from there has been invaluable in me running my own company and the development of projects and products that we have. There's a lot of people, that'll spend money on tools and equipment and everything, and they won't spend any money on training. And I got that training for free, and I got paid to get that training.
Mm-hmm.
That was huge. So, moving to Utah and going to work for Edge from a professional and educational standpoint was probably the best investment I ever made. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the relationship that I still have with Edge. Here we are, 18 years later after I left the company, and I'll be out in Utah in 2 weeks, and I'm going to go over to Edge and have lunch. And it's still, there's still good people out there.
It's beautiful out there too, isn't it?
It's.
I haven't been out there yet. So.
If you love outdoor stuff,
Okay, that's a pass.
And for me, outdoors is like dirt bikes and four wheelers.
Sure.
Okay, because I don't ski, I don't have any coordination.
Yeah.
The summer times get a little warm, but I mean it's beautiful outdoors. It's just everything's brown. I gotta have green.
Ed calls it beige.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I struggle with, and it's just so dry.
Guy coming from a Florida guy. That's gonna be anything outside
like
of
a
that
fish
is
out
dry.
of water.
Yeah.
It was. So I was like itchy all the time. My skin was so dry all the time. So, but I mean, it was great. The 3.5+ years I spent out there were absolutely fantastic, and the people I worked with were fantastic. And I love dirt biking. We used to go dirt biking in the morning. There was a private track out there that was like a semi-pro track, and we'd have like 4 or 5 of us guys go out at 5:30 in the morning, go dirt biking for a couple hours, and then we had a shower at work. So we just go to work, take a shower, and sit down and go to work. And we did that 2 or 3 days a week. When the weather was nice. In the winter, not so much. But it was a lot of fun out there. I really enjoyed it, but it's just not the environment for me.
I get the whole coordination thing. I was actually telling Dan in a truck yesterday, I'm like, I can't go skiing because I can't turn my right leg into pizza, so I just keep going. So
I think it's called snow plowing, but that's fine.
Yeah.
no, it's what is it? French fries pizza, right?
Is it? I have no idea. I don't ski. I'm a snowboarder.
I was taught by immigrants. Okay, so that's fine.
Sorry.
Well, same reason I don't water ski. I just don't have the. I don't have the.
I'm a land mammal, man. I don't do air. I don't do water. Right here. I'm like a cow, just right here, just feasting the grass.
Just a grazer.
Just a grazer. Yeah.
Well, speaking of water ski, I gotta shout out Ryan Dewey real quick for at least putting us in touch and telling
absolutely.
he's here. Yeah, he's a great guy.
I keep hearing this
water
school
ski.
bus thing. What's this all about?
So they race school buses, and it's a program he does through the school, right?
Yeah.
That
So at the end of towards the end of the school season, the school system retires buses. And one of the things I guess that they do in their program is they will take the bus and they will donate it to a school, and they will let the mechanics shop teacher let these kids strip out the bus and then reinforce whatever they need to and do paint it up or whatever, and then they take it out and they have a school bus race night at one of the tracks.
Okay.
And so they will do drag race. So whoever has the best time, getting, I think it's halfway around the track or something. And then they do, there's another one where they do laps and whoever finishes first. And then they have a demolition derby.
Okay.
they do an Elkhart called Eve of Destruction.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So they do that, and then once it's done, you leave the buses there, and they go off to the scrapper.
Okay.
So, but they do. So we've worked with him 3 years now. He just had his event a couple of weeks ago, and it's been absolutely great. We were able to we donated the tuning software to him that he shows to the class, and it's like, this is how the tuning works on this stuff. This is what the maps look like and stuff like that. See if there's anybody interested. Hey, never know where an intern's going to come from.
Well, Well, it's also the next generation, right?
Right.
It's like you don't want that stuff getting lost. Like for example, we have those air-cooled Porsche guys. It's like, how many of those guys are left, right? Like that knowledge has to get passed on somehow, right?
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of that technology, especially carburetors, distributors, stuff like that. Nobody knows how to do that stuff anymore. And I get calls all the time for it, on my own time. I've got friends that I say, I don't know what to do with this. And so we'll go out and, I'll rebuild their carbs and, we'll check their distributors, check the timing curves on it and stuff like that if we have to recurve it or whatever. And it's fun to have that knowledge and having had grown up in that era. And that's why I still have all my old equipment, it's useful for that stuff. And then everything else, is all on computer. It's all, data logs and reflashes now.
Yeah.
So what about as we kind of move, we're getting closer to 2030 every day. Oh my gosh. How do as things continue to develop?
That's not good.
Let's not go there. Do you see yourself dabbling with any of the newer stuff or not so much?
Absolutely. Our biggest thing for us is we've been trying for a couple of years now to start building a relationship with carb, because carb's not going away. I don't care what anybody says about what administration or whatever. CARB's not going away. EPA's not going away.
At least for the time being, it's simmered down, but you never know.
It has. And so when we had our summit event, we had somebody from SEMA come out. We were talking to them. And they said, at least the one thing that we've got going for us is that the automotive industry, particularly tuners and stuff like that, at least we're not on the hit list anymore. They're going after other things right now. That doesn't mean we can't get back on it at any time.
Right.
But right now we're not a prime target, the automotive aftermarket industry, which is good for us. It means that there's a lot less door knocking going on. And I've got a lot of friends that have had that happen. And despite whatever it is that you're doing in your business, even if you try to keep everything as clean and above board as possible, they're going to find some reason to fine you for something because they're not walking out of there without a paycheck somehow, and it's difficult. But so we're trying to figure out how to work with EPA and CARB in a way that's beneficial for both us and our customers. And once we can get the relationship, it's like when we do our hydrochip, and we're actively in the process of getting that certified. We're actively in the process of getting our Fitcom tuning certified. Once we build that relationship, it makes it easier to come out with products for the newer vehicles because they're like, well, they've already made the effort and they passed this, and we don't have any reason at that point to not trust their findings or their research or their testing.
You show that you're willing to play ball.
That's exactly it. And that goes a long way with them. If they show that you're trying to be above board, then they're willing to work with you on stuff too. And sometimes it means being able to get stuff through a little quicker, or not have to be as stringent on a testing process. We don't have to jump through 5 hoops when we only have to jump through 3.
Sure.
So it makes it a lot easier at that point. But yeah, I see us getting into 6.4s again, 6.7s, branching out to maybe Duramax and stuff like that. A lot more of the medium duty stuff. There's a lot of markets out there, and there's a lot of room for everybody. There's still millions and millions of trucks on the road. So
yeah.
Even the 7.3, there's still well over 1 million of titled, registered trucks on the road.
Really?
Yes.
Do you know how many hydro tuners you have out there?
Hydro chips. Since 2012, I believe we're at about 125, 130,000.
Okay. So there's still plenty of market out there.
So we've hit just a little more than 10%, or right about 10% of the market, and that's just on the 7.3 application. That's not even getting into doing, going back into the older F-150s, the older Fox body Mustangs and stuff like that, which the hydro chip will work on just fine.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. It's the same ECM for all intents and purposes. It's just the memory on those are smaller, so we just use a smaller segment of memory on our chip. So I've got several customers that run them on Mustangs. We did a tune for. There's a guy that's got a Ford Ranger that he runs at the track, little 3-liter Ford Ranger, and it's so old and nobody does it anymore. They didn't even check for a chip in the ECM. They don't even look anymore.
Right, yeah.
20 years ago, they checked every computer to make sure it wasn't modified. Now they don't even bother anymore. And he's out there tearing up the track, and he loves the tune on it. So we can do applications like that, and that's exponentially larger because that covers anything from basically 88 to 2003. Any gas engine. No, I wouldn't put it on an Aerostar, although I've done chips for Aerostars. Believe it or not, the 2.9. I don't know who wanted one on an Aerostar, but whatever.
So is that something is that still more custom, or is there a drop down box? Do you have like can type tunes for that stuff? Or?
We're working on some of the more popular stuff. So like for the Mustangs, for like the A9Ls, A9Ms, and the the little curvy body mid 90s Mustangs and stuff. We can definitely do chips for that. And I have a lot of calibrations for those. The Gen 2 Lightnings.
Okay.
We've done lots of tuning for that, and I've got some tunes that'll make 600, 650, 700 horsepower on those. They're brutal trucks, when they're tuned right.
Oh yeah.
So, especially you put an underdrive pulley on a 2.8 pulley or something, and those things are just mean.
They sound good too.
What's that?
I said they sound good too when you're getting on them. Yeah,
they do. Yeah, we've done. Again, I had a lot of things that I got to do that were a lot of fun when I worked at Super Chips and worked with a couple of Lightning guys. There was a real big racer in 2000, 99, 2000, Johnny Lightning, had a really nice Gen 2 Lightning, water cooler in the back for the intercooler, and kept bags of ice in there, and he was 750, 800 horsepower.
Yeah.
Out of this ridiculous truck, man. It was just awesome.
Where did the name come from for both the tuner and the company?
Power Hungry kind of came out of a necessity just to try to find a name.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of companies that we deal with, we start, like diesel, this diesel, that diesel, West Coast diesel, a lot of that kind of pigeonholes you into that
Right.
market. But when I started the company, I was already kind of known for the diesel stuff, but I wanted to also show that we could still do gas. I had a lot of gas experience when I was working at Edge, and we wanted to carry into that market. So diesel was out. I like the idea of using the word power somewhere or performance somewhere.
So just one word left to choose.
Well, yeah, and we were like Southern Performance or something like that, but then there was Southern Performance Warehouse. So it's like, well, okay, I can't compete with that name. I'm not going to fight with that. And after that, it was just, what can I find a website for? What can I get a URL for? And it was not a lot of options. So we stuck with, it just ended up coming with Power Hungry Performance. And I had actually bought several URLs for different names and stuff like that in 2007, and finally tried to find one that actually rolled off the tongue well.
Mm-hmm.
And that one just seemed to work for me. And it's really good when everyone just calls you PHP now.
Yeah.
It's like, so when they shorten your name to something that's digestible, very easily digestible and memorable. So we're very happy with the name. All of the product names generally come from Greek mythology. So we have Orion, we have Hydra, we have Pegasus, we have our version when we were private labeling the evolutions from Edge, we were calling it the Griffin and stuff like that. So we found a direction to go that we liked, and our software is Minotaur. It's all Greek name based.
Okay.
Greek mythology.
I like it.
So, well, and it just kind of keeps everything on a theme. So
right. Is the gas stuff something I can get on your website still too? Like you go on there and you have all that information on there too for the.
We're working on that. We're going to be adding that stuff on there because it's something that we've been working to develop and release in a digestible format, like we did with the 7.3 tuning, ever since we got back from No-BS OBS last year.
Yeah, because it's not just the 7.3s that are still popular. The OBS market has gone insane.
Market's huge.
Fox bodies now are, I have several.
Well, everyone's running a Fox body on 10.5s. I mean, that's just what it is. And everyone, they're running a 5.0 or a 5, built 5.8 or whatever, and the tuning, it all works on that. So.
And to be honest with you, the reason I haven't tuned some of mine is I didn't want to mess with it. The go-to was Mega Squirt, I think was your other real big option for that. Right. And it was just something I didn't want to get into or learn or do any of that stuff. Right. So, well,
I think for like the Fox body stuff or some of the older stuff, one of the big options was Tweaker.
That was another one I heard of. Yep.
And as they had software. I was talking to a guy yesterday. He's used Tweaker for years, and he's like, it works, but it's not the most reliable. It's a little glitchy. It's a little twitchy, and so we ended up selling him. We have live data or live tuning hardware that you can plug in and live tune right from your laptop. So you can have the car running, make a change in a fuel map, and it's immediately carried into the ECM. So when it works on both the gas and the diesels, so it really provides a lot of option for people who want to do their own tuning. It's a good way to go.
If you've made it this far into the episode and have an interest in learning how to tune diesels but don't know where to start, our partners at the High Performance Academy can get you going with both the fundamentals and practical tuning. Get access to hours of step-by-step content and dozens of videos using code Minnox to save 55% using the link below, or the partners page at Minnoxide.com. let's get back to the show.
It's good. It's a good hardware software combination and provides a lot of flexibility.
I like that. I think that's going to be big.
So we're working on that. We're looking to get that out there.
Well, as we sort of start the wind down, I suppose. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my family. I'm Angela and I together. We have 8 kids.
Oh, wow.
And
Somebody's got you beat.
I have 4.
So she has 3. I have 5.
Okay.
So we're a blended family, but and we don't have any together. But that's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of my family and what they've been able to accomplish, and especially when I started this company, the sacrifices that they made for my time because I was trying to run a company. That was a very hard thing to deal with. And the fact that my youngest son works as our software engineer impresses the heck out of me. Angela's daughter is our warehouse manager. It's, we're really happy to see where they go. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to build and accomplish here, and the legacy that we leave behind for our kids, and the impact that we've had on the industry. I love the industry. I've always loved the automotive industry. I've always been a gearhead, and I don't do it for the fame or notoriety or for the headlines. That's always great to get them, but that's not what I do it for. And it's not for ego. I do it because I love the industry and I love to see people happy with what they're driving. So that's probably what I'm most proud of.
What do you think's holding our industry back, if anything?
Regulation.
Regulation.
EPA is really hard, and it's hard on the entire industry. The hoops that we have to go through to just manufacture or sell anything anymore is, especially when you consider realistically how small of a segment of the market we are.
Mm-hmm.
But we're so heavily targeted.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfair, and it's really hurting a lot of the industry as far as people being able to have a job that they don't have to worry about whether they're going to be out of business tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the biggest thing that's holding our industry back. And then if you want to get into a little more involved is for the tuning industry, the ability to modify ECMs was considerably easier, and every couple of years new architecture comes out and they make it more and more and more difficult for tuners to be able to reverse engineer what they've got. Everything's encrypted now, and unless you know somebody who knows somebody, it's getting to be almost impossible to deal with any of that stuff.
Yeah. Who did we talk to recently that said one of the OEM guys is on like a special list, like basically a kill list, like it's like for giving out access or something. It's like
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, like Snowden level, like all right, we're gonna
it's really gotten bad, and unfortunately that's just that it's that kind of stuff. It used to be Ford, for example, had their performance racing program. They still do. They make programs. Like my wife just got a new Bronco Raptor, and she just bought a Ford programmer for it that comes from Ford. It's made by Ford, their performance division. And I haven't seen support like that from Ford in a long time. But back in the 90s with the Fox body Mustangs, they had their little Epic box that you could actually control, and then you could control nitrous controllers or whatever. You could do all kinds of fun stuff, and Ford, with the full blessings of Ford. And then they started getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's it's almost to me like being short-sighted, because people want to modify these. Why don't you just let them do it? It would be a huge driving factor for sales for you if we just let people play with their own vehicles.
Yeah.
What's a deciding factor for some people for what truck they're going to buy?
Well, we still get a lot of 7.3 people. It's like I've stuck with a 7.3 or 6.0 because I can still modify it.
Yeah.
I go out and I buy a 6.7, especially the newer ones, which are getting considerably more difficult to program. And there's reliability issues with the fuel systems and stuff like that. It's like, I just don't want to deal with that anymore.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of customers with the Navistar stuff, the international trucks that we do, that they go back to the earlier stuff because there's no DEF, there's no EGR, there's no DPF, and the engines you can work on and you can tune, you can turn them up to 300 horsepower versus 175.
Yeah, and it won't get recalled by the millions.
Well,
There's
yeah,
that too right now.
they're pretty pretty well past that point. And like you said, those older engines, they're just super reliable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When Navistar went to the Max 4 stuff, there was a lot of complaints about them, the reliability, and it's because they had EGR and DPF, and it became a much less reliable platform. So, but that's the overregulation of everything, and really the lack of dealer enthusiasm behind the modifications and stuff is really hurting the industry.
How do we, like, for example, like whatever passed, what was it, June 12th or whatever? It was like SEMA said like some 56,000 businesses reached out to have to allow for such change to happen, whether that's true or not or whatever happened. How do we get together as a collective to, I guess, fight for our industry? Do you have any insight on that?
So we started Summit 7.3 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was an idea about 2.5, almost 3 years ago. We did our first event 2 years ago, and with a very narrow focus just on the 7.3 industry. We just wanted to see what was available out there. We ran that for 2 years. We just had our second event, but somewhere in between the two events, Angela got this idea for another organization that encompasses the entire diesel performance industry. It's called the Diesel Alliance. And the goal on that is to create a community that provides resources, advocation, and stuff for the diesel performance industry. There may be a point where that expands out even further, not quite to the scale that like SEMA is. So we're trying to find something that may be a blend of the both of those, something that deals specifically with the aftermarket performance industry, but is not just a big catalog.
We need a union, damn it.
Yeah.
We need something. We need something, because the only way that this industry is going to continue to thrive is if we all pull together until we have people that are able to go out there and go to bat for us. So we have people like Corey Willis from PPEI.
I was going to ask you about that because he just had something on Monday. That was something that was like some sort of congressional hearing or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of that or hear anything?
I didn't get a chance to watch any of it yet.
Yeah.
But people like him who are just tired of getting pushed around.
Yeah.
And EPA come out and just empty your pockets. I mean, that's extortion. I mean, I don't care what you want to call it. That's extortion. And so for him to go back and battle against the EPA and battle against the legislation
for like a decade too, I think.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been ridiculous, and he's finally getting where he's making some headway. He certainly people in higher positions are starting to take a lot of notice of him and starting to take him seriously, and that's a great thing for the industry. So we need an organization with people like him on board that will go out and just not let this stuff happen. So,
well, I think the big thing for him, at least in one of his recent posts I saw, is just, and I'm sure it's the same for you, you're just tired of seeing whether it's a competitor or a compatriot, it's just seeing people get hurt as a result of it.
Yeah, I can't do that. I mean, there are companies that I may or may not be the best friends with or have the greatest relationship with. But we're all in the same industry, and anything that happens to them could just as easily happen to me.
Yep,
I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
But more importantly, is you're taking away someone's livelihood. You're taking away, an employer. Even if it's just a single person shop, you're taking away this guy's ability to provide for his family and provide food and keep a roof over their head, and that's not right. Because legitimately, at the end of the day, I mean, how big of an impact are we having on whatever their view of global impact is? How much of an impact are we having on that? When you look at how many planes are flying around, and
Yeah, if you add it up, it's a very, very small drop in the bucket of what's going on.
It is.
Yeah.
But so we're being unfairly targeted, which is, that's the problem. So, but, with nobody to advocate for us, and SEMA, unfortunately, they talk with EPA, but I don't know how well they advocate for us.
It might be more of a, and this is purely speculation, I don't want to offend anybody, but it could be more like one of those like political, like you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
And it may very well be. Like I said, I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on, and I'm in no position, full disclaimer, to ever make any kind of judgment on what their motives are and stuff like that. But again, optics account for a lot, and sometimes I just, as a SEMA member, and I've been a SEMA member for 20 years.
Right.
I sometimes don't feel like they have our back. And there are things that they do, and they try to keep us at least informed of what's coming on the horizon, and we're grateful.
Which is also a huge thing, right?
It is. It is. At least so we have an idea of what we're dealing with. But I don't feel like they're on the front line of it sometimes. And so like people like Corey getting out there and getting his hands dirty.
Very vocal.
Yeah, very vocal, and we need more people like that. And to stand behind an organization that's gonna do that. That's gonna get out there and just start pushing back.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. We talked about at lunch about Quick Tricks and what they've done too. That was a nice family. I've talked to them, and
wonderful people.
Yeah, amazing people.
Yeah, and to literally be treated like a terrorist is it's the most ridiculous thing. And again, it put them out of business. They were trying to just make a living doing tuning, and they got treated like a domestic terrorist. And that kind of behavior is not acceptable. That kind of power is not acceptable.
Yeah.
Everything should be taken with, a grain of salt, and with being able to look at the entire situation, and not just, come at you with a sledgehammer.
A little more nuance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there are certainly nuances to the situation, and there are some people who are still surprisingly, like on Facebook, blasting DPF delete, da 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 da, and I'm like, what are you people?
Brother.
I mean, that's just ignorant. That's just asking to get hammered. But there are people who have never done a DPF delete in their life, and are doing some minor modification or something like that, and the EPA comes after them and slaps them with a $20,000 or $30,000 fine. That puts most people out of business. Most small shops can't afford a hit like that. I couldn't afford a hit like that. And it's just an absolute abuse of power. So,
no, I'm watching it somewhat closely to see what ends up happening over these next few years. So, yeah.
The big one is going to be, where do these electric vehicles go?
Yeah.
I'm more worried about that than I kind of really am about anything else.
When he crashed his Excursion, we got in with a tow truck driver, and he was talking, like, he was ranting about a billion things. I think he had to have been like 80, dude. Like, he was ranting.
He was a different cat for sure.
For sure. But he's talking about, like, there's some tow truck drivers that will not even go to a call to pick up an EV vehicle because it's a whole nother level of danger.
Yeah, they don't want anything to do with it. So.
Yeah, or like even if you look at like the Nürburgring, recently they're doing some testing with the new GT2 RS allegedly, and you could see that it's marked as an electric vehicle in the back because they have to identify it, like at the ring. So if they're going to tow you, you have to identify as a hybrid or electric vehicle.
Right.
So it's just, there's a reason for it. So I'm curious to see what happens because it's not as friendly as people make it out to be.
Well, it's not, but the reality is on a global scale, we're way behind the curve on percentage of electrical vehicles as far as registered vehicles. Europe, China, Australia, they're so much further ahead, and not only just the vehicles, but in the infrastructure. I think, with the petroleum industry still having a firm foothold and everything, and I think there's a lot of pushback just from that. But Americans, we love our gas vehicles, man.
Well, forget gas vehicles. Tell me how you're gonna make your plastic too. People forget that all your plastic forks are also made out of oil. So,
I'm excited to see. I feel like what I've been reading is Toyota's making huge strides in hydrogen, and I'd like to see where that goes because
it's very curious.
Yeah.
It's the infrastructure, the delivery of that.
Yep.
You know, how are you going to have? Is there going to
Hydrogen
be easy
station.
access? Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, is you can
generate. You know,
generate it
like
at
that.
the station
Yeah.
itself. It could be like that little propane corner where
Right.
you know they have the spot there, kind of a fenced off stuff. But I don't know.
So yeah, well, I mean, you know, again, it's that's stuff I think anybody in this industry is kind of watching because it affects all of us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But at least if you look at it from the standpoint, at least the hydrogen vehicles are still an internal combustion engine.
Yes.
They're zero emission, but they're still an engine,
Mm-hmm.
and that provides opportunities.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
electric vehicles, unless you're jacking with the controllers, there's not really much there for us, I
Mhm.
guess, unless
Yeah.
you want to start selling wheels or whatever.
Mhm.
So.
Well, Sweet, on that note, is there anything else coming on the horizon that we should know about, or?
We're actually getting ready. So we're doing no BS OBS this year, mid-August, August 14, 15, something like that.
Okay, this should release by then,
Yeah.
hopefully. Yeah.
We'll see
Think
where
so?
it goes.
Yeah.
But we are doing a pre-tour and a post-tour.
Mhm.
So we're taking our schooly speakeasy bus.
Sure. Yeah.
We're doing a tour up through the Midwest and then across, probably out I-80 into Oregon. And then we go into the event. Then we've got a couple of week hiatus where we come back and then we're going to fly back out and then we're going to do our southern tour.
Mhm.
So we're going through like Phoenix to visit Casey and Complete Performance in Texas and several other places along the way. So that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot of time, but we're going to be able to get out there and actually go to a bunch of shops and talk with people to kind of get an idea of what it is that they need for their industries. If there's anything, one that's Summit 7.3, which is probably going to be a large focus on our little tour, but just in the diesel industry as well. What can some of these organizations help you out with? From networking, training, stuff like that. As well as how can we advocate for you in the environment that you're in?
Okay.
Your Summit 7.3, one, where is it? Are you moving it each time? And is it something that like the consumer can go to as well, or is it?
So Summit 7.3, the first year it was only B2B. So if you were an installer, a manufacturer, warehouse, or anything like that, we had those people come out. It was, we were trying to see where it was going to go. We weren't really sure what it was we had. The one we just held in March, and we've held it at the same event location. It's at the Lanier Conference Center in Cumming, Georgia.
Okay.
And all the information is at summit73.com.
Okay.
This year when we held it, we added an extra day. And so again, it's still primarily for business owners or people in the 7.3 industry. But this year we added a public day on Saturday and coupled it with a truck show. So we had a lot of people bring out their rigs, their trucks and stuff. Had some really, really nice vehicles out. But it was a day for people to come out and talk with the manufacturers and maybe, find out, what products are available for your vehicle. So, and we're going to do the same thing again next year. We're going to have another public day where the public is available to come out. I don't know what the format of that's going to look like. It may be more in the conference center, where we're doing the general conference, or if it's going to be like another truck show kind of thing. But we still want to have have a day for the people to be able to come out and meet with all the vendors and manufacturers. But it's it'll probably be March, March 26th. Like I said, the dates and all the event particulars will be on summit73.com. And if anybody would like to sign up, either come to the conference or sign up as a vendor, we would love to have you come out.
Cool.
Okay.
You want to rip the usual 3?
Yeah. So at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guests to pick 3 cars or trucks. I need a daily driver, a show car, and a track car. You got an unlimited budget. Build whatever you want. What are you picking?
Audi R8, Audi R8, Audi R8.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because I say that in jest, but I say that in all seriousness as well, because the Audi R8 is my daily driver. I do have an Explorer ST, and that's fun, but that's more for like pulling the camper, or if I got to tote the dogs around.
Yep.
it's a fun show car, and we do caffeine and octane every month, and we do club meetups everywhere, and then I'm actually getting to track my car for the first time in 2 weeks over at Road Atlanta.
Nice.
Ooh.
Okay.
So I've been on that track several times. I've had a Focus ST that I've had out there, and it's a blast. I love the track, and I've had it at AMP.
Yeah, that's a fun track. I rented that one a few years ago.
That's a nice track. It's a tight track. It's probably not a good track for me to get the R8 on because I can't stretch its legs.
Yeah. I ran my Mustang on that track. I got black flagged for noise though, so that was a little annoying. Yeah,
that's not fun. But Road Atlanta's got a couple of really nice straights on there. 120, 130 is not going to be a problem. But the one thing that I really do love about the R8 is, one, I fit in it. I have really long legs, and I've got friends with McLarens, Lamborghinis, Ferraris. You pick the car, Porsche GT2 RS, GT3, I don't fit in them. My legs get cramped up under the dash.
Yeah, it's not as comfortable.
And so the R8 is one of the few cars that I've been able to sit in that I'm actually very comfortable in, and I can drive that car 10 hours to Miami and get out of it, and I feel great. So it really is an absolutely fantastic car and one of my favorite cars. One of the other things that surprised me about it was how much of a networking tool it is.
Oh yeah, we've heard that before too.
Because having a car like that, and I don't mean to sound arrogant or anything like that, but it really puts you in a different.
It opens doors.
People.
It is a common thing amongst a lot of business owners we've talked to, that once they've made that move, it puts them in places where they get more opportunity.
It really does, and it's surprising how something as ridiculous sounding as a car, does that, but it really does open doors. But it's just a heck of a lot of fun, and at 4 years old, and I've got 32,000 miles on it. I mean, I drive it.
Did you buy it in 21?
I bought it. I spec'd it, and it has every option on it, with the exception of the red calipers, because the performance package it came with blue calipers.
Okay. And
but it's got the carbon fiber, it's got the racing seats, it's the V10 performance, it's everything.
Okay.
And I ordered it, and they built it and boated it over. It was the ship before the one that sank with all the EVs on it. And because when that happened, I was like, I hope my car wasn't on that.
Yeah.
That was a really, I kept bugging the Audi. I said, where's my car? Can you tell me what boat it's on? Well, it wasn't that one. Okay.
I had friends that were ordering, they're trying to get a Merlin Purple, I think it's called, what was it, an RS3 or something? Or no, TTRS at the time, and their order got canceled because of that ship. Okay.
Oh, so they didn't even let them build another one? They're just like, sorry, yours is down there. If you want to go get it.
It was also like the remainder of the COVID BS that was going on at the time with production. It was just, they're just like, we're not making this anymore.
That Merlin, is that like the denim one?
It's like that dark purple that it's just a really good looking color. Yeah. All right, so what are you locking in? Daily show and track.
Are you doing out? You want the ST for daily and R8 for track? You really gonna lock all three of those in as Audi R8?
You gonna do a drag and drive with it?
Yeah.
Well, I said the thing with the R8 is it's such a flexible car. If I wanted to do a daily drive that I'm not concerned about mileage, the Explorer ST is actually a really fun vehicle.
Okay.
I really love the Explorer ST. The Audi R8 is definitely a good show car and a great track car. It's just been a fantastic vehicle for the length that I've had it.
I'm not gonna let him just do one for two. I'm gonna make you lock something in for. What is it gonna be? A show car or a track car?
You like the old cars. What show car are you doing?
All right. Well, if I can't do the R8, you're gonna spoil my fun.
Not for all three.
Yeah.
Or two.
Okay. All right. So Explorer ST for the daily driver, R8 for the track car.
Okay.
I really don't like anything else for that. I would probably. It's a project vehicle right now, but it's a 1964 F600.
Okay.
That it's going to be bagged, and the engine that's actually here on the dyno, this FV block, was the one that was originally going to go in it, but I think we're going to go with a DT466 dry sump. With we're gonna build the engine here on the dyno, and so it'll be 98 to 2004 GT466 so that we can do the tuning on it, and I have a wide variety of injectors to choose from. I could do twin turbos, and I got the engine bay to fit it. And, I mean, we got a lot of room for that. So that would be my show vehicle.
Sure.
So anyway,
I knew there was something in there you were hiding.
I just
come on. No car guy has one car.
No. Obviously, I don't. And I've given away more cars than I have now. I mean, I just need my property. Please make it go away. I gave away a Fox body Mustang just because I wanted it out of my shop because I couldn't work on my Fairlane.
I just gave away one as well. So yeah. All right. Well, I guess we're going his house, going shopping after this.
Sure. I mean, yeah. All right. Cool. Where can everybody find you?
If you need any information, gopowerhungry.com. Very, very easy to find. Or just give us a call. We've always got somebody here to answer phones. It's one of the things that I love about our company is we don't do the press 1 for this, press 2 for that.
Yeah.
You dial the phone, somebody answers the phone and talks to you, and that's always been something that's been very important to us, and our customers love that. So.
Cool.
Yeah, or just Google best tuner for 7.3, and that's what came up. That's how I found them. So
is that actually?
There's the big joke of I've somehow been named, and this is not a name I picked for myself. I swear, the godfather of power stroke tuning.
Yeah.
And so I have a little card holder on my desk that says that. But that's what people have called me.
Yeah.
Because when working at Super Chips, we literally wrote the first 7.3 tunes out there.
Yeah.
And that was mostly what I wrote. So I think almost all 7.3 tuning out there, especially anything from Super Chips or SCT, probably also has my copyright information at the end of it.
That's awesome.
So, and even other tuners who are using it that have swiped their tunes still has my stuff in it because I still pull files off chips all the time. And it's like, yeah, that's my tune.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Dan?
You can find us at Gunna Garage with 2 N's.
You don't have to do the 2 Ns thing anymore. People know already, man.
I thought so too.
How many N's?
2 N's. 2 N's, yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you very much for making this happen.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for coming out, and thank you for sharing lunch with us. And
thank you.
Had a really good time, and I'm sorry Sylvester Stallone didn't show up.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Next time.
Yeah, next time. I'll make an appointment.
I thought it would be cool enough coming here, and then you tease me with the Sylvester thing, and then I've been disappointed. It's fine.
Well, next time they're shooting Tulsa King, we'll give you a call. Fly you down.
All right, sounds good.
Every time I hear Sylvester, by the way, I think of the cat. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like I don't know why. Like that's a big part of my childhood was that cat.
Sylvester and Tweety.
Yep. Well, perfect. On that note, thank you, Dan. Thanks for existing, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks again for watching the show, guys. Be sure to go into the description down below and check out all of our sponsors. They are what make this show possible. It allows us to travel the country and talk to some really cool guests. So be sure to check them out, support them just like you support us, and see y'all next time.